Howdy, A&M fans. Hey, now that I have your attention, is it true your frat bros make their recruits do the elephant walk to join their dudes only club? Follow-up question, why? What does that even prove? Every now and then there comes along a game that holds an increased gravity and magnitude to it, where the fallout of the game can shift the entire future, not just for the two teams, but for the entire sport. A game that can alter the trajectory of two schools, changing who holds the powers in a conference, force program resets, flip recruiting classes, and dare I say, kickstart a new dynasty in the college football world. An opportunity to win your first ring since 1939. And by ring, I mean a national championship. Not those Aggie rings you guys give out to the graduates who maintain a 2.0 GPA, were present for more than 10% of their classes, and didn't have a child in the 4 years on campus. That's right, Aggies, I did my research. But look, hey, it's all in good fun, cadets. I don't want any trouble. And no, I don't want to join in on that elephant walk either. Let's everyone just put all their swords down. Speaking of dicks, first round is on me at the Dixie Chicken tonight. And there's plenty more where that comes from. Believe it or not, Aggies, despite my introduction, this video does slant positively in your favor. I promise. Just stay with me. For a long time, like many college football fans, I've held the belief that Texas A&M is a sleeping giant, and if there was just a catalyst to set off its alarm clock, the rest of the country may be ducking and running for cover. Kind of like a Texas Longhorn tuba player escaping an avalanche of horse manure crashing down on him. Well, that catalyst very well could be a win this weekend in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm a first round bust, and I'm here to make the argument that this is the most important game in the history of Texas A&M football. First, let's state the obvious. On face value alone, this is setting up to be an awesome game for everyone to watch except for AP voters. We have a top 20 matchup between conference opponents who are both premier brands in the sport, and a primetime night game at LSU's Death Valley, one of the best environments in the entire sport, where the Tiger faithful will be celebrating Halloween early in their scariest Halloween costumes. Whoops, sorry, they're just having a family reunion. With their flags, grills, tents, frisbeer setups, and double-wide trailer homes, or RVs as they like to call them. Without question, one of the most difficult stadiums to walk into and come out with a W. Just ask every single A&M team since 1994. Not to mention the playoff implications and coaching jobs on the line. The Aggies have a golden opportunity staring them in the face that I'm genuinely not sure the 12th man is aware of. A chance to take command of a wide-open SEC conference, a chance to become the premier program in the home state, which serves as the #1 recruiting base in America, a chance to propel a young star quarterback into the Heisman race, and lastly, a chance to accomplish goals no team donning the maroon and white have done this millennia. A golden opportunity waiting for you to bend over, grab your ankles, and spell run. Bend over, put your hands on your knees to hump it and squeeze it. Yes, I'm serious. This is an actual thing. They'll try to deny it, but don't let them. They call it the hump it. Before we look forward, a quick look back on the history that leads us up to this moment. This game has showcased more than its fair share of legends and Hall of Famers. You got Saban, Bryant, Ogeron, Burrow, Garrett, Lemon, Manziel, the guy who lost to a kicking net by TKO, Miller, Shaq, Longoria. You know the names. But did you know this rivalry dates back all the way to 1899? And in that time, the Tigers have built their series lead up to 32, 24, and 3. Since 2017, these teams have traded blow for blow. No, for the last time Sigma Beta Epsilon, nobody here wants to do an elephant walk with you guys. Blow for blow with the home team winning each year. The most memorable game in recent recollection being the 7-overtime thriller in 2018 when the Aggies won 74-72, setting 2 NCAA records for the most points scored in a game and the most overtimes in a single game. Some of my inside sources are also telling me this was actually the game that led to an NCAA overtime rule change to prevent increased, and I quote, crying, screaming, and begging. Texas A&M is trying to do something they haven't pulled off since 1994, and that's escape with a win in Baton Rouge. Much easier said than done. Did I mention 1994? Because that's also the last time A&M had an undefeated regular season, which, with a win on Saturday, remains on the table and gets a way better prognosis considering Texas A&M will be heavy favorites in the remaining games on the schedule. In today's college football world with increased number of games, the transfer portal, and NIL, competitive balance has never been stronger, and going wire to wire is becoming a thing of the past. Aggie fans, please do not take this opportunity for granted just because you're old enough to remember teams who recently went undefeated. A&M hasn't won a conference title since 1998 when they were still in the Big 12. Vegas currently has A&M as plus 400 odds to win the SEC, second only behind Alabama. Degenerates, I'm telling you, get your bets in now, because those payouts are only going to get smaller if the Aggies escape Death Valley with a W. Alright, history lesson complete, and we also touched a little bit on everything Texas A&M has in front of them to accomplish this season. But how exactly would a victory impact the future of the Aggies program? Well, for starters, a loss could mark the end of the Brian Kelly experiment at LSU, which is always fun future bragging rights over your Tiger friends when you get to tell them that you put their coach 6 feet under. And this would result in another head coach vacancy to a major SEC brand name, inducing even more chaos in conference against one of your biggest recruiting competitors. While teams are overhauling their sinking ships, the best thing to be is a stable program in the eyes of recruits. You can get on the phone, call those recruits, and just wait. No pitch needed. They already saw you walk into Death Valley and handle business. May have even been at the game with an LSU field pass on. It's no secret that in the NIL era, College Station is playing poker at the high-stakes table. With their resources and the opportunity to poach from sliding programs, this could easily be that catalyst for a complete program level up for Mike Elko, who can achieve his signature win in only his second year as head coach. Oh, and by the way, that sophomore quarterback Marcel Reed returns next season. You already took some of those recruiting lessons on the chin and learned from your mistakes with that 2022 recruiting class. Which, come on, Aggie fans, I think enough time has passed and we can now finally admit it was an unmitigated disaster. Or maybe we just don't look at the stars next to the name in their 40 times, but also consider that character matters just a little bit as well, which I do think Elko understands. And we're already seeing that on the field. Last point I want to make on recruiting, it's not just the SEC you can put in your crosshairs here. You have an opportunity to put a fence around the entire state of Texas. You can ascend to the premier program in your state. Oh, and P.S., you play Texas in Austin to cap off this regular season. Same rules apply if you go in there and catch a W. Natties can be won with rosters of only Texas recruits. And it's nice for you because they need less persuasion to stay closer to home. It never hurts also if you have the cachet to go on and land a couple 5-stars from Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, and the rest of the country just to mix in with them. Program momentum is absolutely a real thing. The more momentum, the more passionate and bought in the fan base is. The more bought in the fan base, the better the game day atmosphere is, the more tickets and jersey sales you make, and we get to couple that with more commas on those booster checks. The more money from the boosters, the better facilities and support for your coaches and players. And what's the backbone of any program? That's right, undetected cheating. Am I right, Michigan? Bet you didn't think you were going to catch a stray bullet in this video? No, the backbone is the fan base. Can you imagine what a win like this will do for College Station and Texas A&M Nation? And then just think, what if we parlay that into a perfect regular season, a conference championship, a playoff berth, a natty win? I still don't fully understand what the midnight yell tradition is all about. But if the Aggies keep rolling, you'll be able to hear those yell leaders whose dads totally don't wish they were on the football team instead, all the way from space. I have no dog in this fight. I don't root for nor hate either school. My only hatred is for Brian Kelly, really. And my only rooting interest is the better Texas A&M is, the more of those public intoxication reports come out from the campus police department that I get to see. How's that guy doing, by the way? I know I sound like I'm getting ahead of my skis here, but genuinely, I'm so serious about the dormant powerhouse that I truly believe Texas A&M is. It's worth noting, all of this sounds great on paper and when fantasizing about taking over the college football throne. But Texas A&M fans, it's time to wake up. Enough daydreaming of what could be. Because there's also an avenue or two you get sent down that the virgins, I mean gamers, would refer to as an alternative bad ending. What if you don't slay the dragon? What if you lose to LSU? It's not right, it's not fair, but the narrative following a loss to the Tigers will be, well, that same old Texas A&M who can't win the big games. The SEC title race gets a heck of a lot more crowded, margin for error gets a heck of a lot smaller, and another loss puts you at a heck of a lot greater risk for missing the conference championship and or the playoff. There's always next year, starts to run dry with fans and boosters who are not only paying the coaches and players currently, but the previous coach as well. All that chaos going on at the other SEC schools is great, right up until they actually make a competent coaching hire and roster spots open open up for your players. The other bad ending here is that you beat LSU, but then take a loss to another team. I mentioned earlier you'll be significant favorites to win the rest of the way, which you will be, but I never once said you're mortal locks to win out, which you won't be. Congrats, you won in Death Valley, adding it to your road win at Notre Dame, which you got a bye week after before having a close one against Auburn in College Station. You get a bye week after this game as well, but we can't sleepwalk out of that bye again because you're then going to Missouri and finish the season at Texas, which are two losable games, especially if Arch finally realizes his uncle's also played quarterback and figures out how to throw a pass when you're not playing against Butterbean and Honey Boo Boo's son. For all my degenerates out there, here's what Sin City thinks of the game. At the time of recording, Vegas has you guys as 2.5-point favorites and the over-under is set at 48.5. That means the oddmaker's score prediction is in the ballpark of 25 or 26 to 23, give or take. Ugly ass number, I agree. I hate when the Vegas calculator gives us non-football scores. The last thing I'll be doing is your hump it, pull it, bop it, squeeze it chant, but I will be taking the over and the Texas A&M cover. I think the Aggies go on to win the game 31-27. Death Valley is maybe the hardest road venue to win at, but Texas A&M has already proven they can win behind enemy lines, winning in South Bend in week 2. I also think LSU fans are slowly starting to check out on Brian Kelly with their recent struggles. Don't get me wrong, that stadium is going to be as vitriolic as ever. But I do think when players and coaches see all the fans talking about how they'd be okay with a loss, since the consolation prize is they finally get to fire Kelly, I think that does play a role on their psyches. Dual threat quarterbacks are the ultimate equalizer in football. Enter number 10, Marcel Reed, one of my favorite players to watch this year. My only concern is his accuracy if he's all amped up from the atmosphere, coupled with the 102,000 plus faces of meth staring right through his soul. Lastly, but most importantly, you guys have Lassie on your side. And I've watched too many movies to bet against the protagonist's plot armor. I'm not a college football coach, but if I could give Elko one word of advice, do not get up by too many points too early. Because I recently learned that for a long time, LSU has referred to their defensive backup unit as the Chinese Bandits. I have no idea why, but if I'm an Aggie, I'd be too afraid to find out. I mean, if Whit Weeks is out there throwing up all over himself for 4 quarters as linebacker 1, do we really want to know what the bandit behind him is capable of? I couldn't be more excited for this game. I think we're in for a great one. Everyone seems to be knocking this week's slate of college football games. I completely disagree, and I know the diehard college football fans are probably with me. There's never any bad weeks. And this one in my mind is absolutely the game of the week. But please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree or disagree that this is the biggest game in Texas A&M history? I genuinely don't feel as though this take is hyperbolic in the slightest, by the way. Obviously, would I bet on you guys winning 4 out of the next 5 natties just because you win this game? No. But would I bet on Texas A&M having their best season in the modern era with positive momentum that could domino effect to them being a perennial SEC and national title contender? Absolutely I would. Please also share with me your score predictions and any other stories in the world of college football you'd like to see covered. In summary, what is there to gain? Pretty much everything. What is there to lose? Nothing. If you're perfectly content with being the same old Aggies, I guess there's always next year. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.